Welcome back to Munchausen's Proxy. When last we gathered to pass judgment on the Peripheral on Amazon Prime, the second episode was found slightly wanting. Flaws were creeping into what was a pretty good show if you merely based it on the premiere. In this spoiler review of episode 3, we once more find a mixed bag. More to like, but also more to criticize. This episode opens in 2015 Tennessee, where Corbel Pickett is selling some upgraded armored SUVs to a bunch of bikers. He is putting on a holy roller act that is about as cringe and unbelievable as it gets, especially if you watch the first 2 episodes. Watching all of this is his nephew Jasper, as he watched some cars in his uncle's car dealer lot. The bikers get in the SUVs, and all the SUVs lock, keeping the bikers inside on a 100-degree-plus day. Leaning nearby are a bunch of wooden crosses he told the bikers he was planning on putting up by some billboards he owns. As the bikers roast to death, he leaves Jasper hosing down the SUVs to taunt the bikers. As he walks away, he hints he is planning to crucify the bikers after they die. Later on, we find out he did just that. Back in 2032, I really did not need to see Pickett's ass, though I guess it was better than a full frontal. He is swimming naked in his pool when his wife comes out. What follows is just retarded, and a further decline of Pickett as a believable villain. The wife starts suggesting options regarding the hit on Flynn and Burton, and where the money might come from. And she is a more believable villain than her husband, which was probably the point of the scene. If he was a real villain, and a real crime lord as we're meant to believe, he would already have come up with those options and more. She eventually suggests they have Jasper recon the siblings, since Jasper's wife is besties with Flynn. They cut away to Flynn's mom sitting at the kitchen table reading a newspaper, as Flynn leaves to go see Billy Ann, Jasper's wife. And Flynn is an idiot. She completely blabs everything that has been going on to Billy Ann, the wife of Pickett's nephew. Burton, however, shows he has more brains in his pinky than she has in her entire skull, having Flynn followed by their cousin and a trio of drones. When Flynn gets to work, she finds Burton and his buddy have been printing guns with the 3D printers. When she freaks out because the company doesn't allow that, he tells her that Milagros Cold Iron bought the place, and the 2 nerds are in charge, feeling that she should focus on the sim. As they leave to go home, Connor arrives and Burton has him help the nerds. Flynn is trying but failing to hide the side effects of the sim, her brother noticing her hand is clenching uncontrollably. In the truck, she tells Burton that she shared what was going on with Billy Ann, and he, reasonably, erupts in anger when she tries to point out that she has no support system like he does in his military buddies. He points out, again, reasonably, who Billy Ann's in-laws are. Back in the future, Wilf and Lev are standing around a crate. Wilf gets upset when Lev takes the lid off and Flynn's peripheral is in the crate. Lev chides him for being too sentimental. Wilf then asks Lev why Ash would ask him whether Wilf had ever killed anyone. Lev tells him that it is nothing to be ashamed of, that it saved Lev and his family, and he will never be a whole, happy person until he can embrace that part of himself. They are in the middle of the discussion when Flynn arrives, her peripheral becoming more alive than the vague, happy standby mode the peripheral has. After they brainstorm a little about the heist Alita used Flynn to pull off, and learning it would be bad if Research Institute found out about them, Ash asks Flynn if she knows Pickett. Ash informs her that Pickett has been contacted by someone from the future timeline, and that he may be the next person to try and claim the hit reward. Then we get a flashback, this one of Alita, the one from the opening scene of the series, and Wilf. They were at the same orphanage together and adopted by a wealthy family after Alita refused to go without Wilf. Wilf's name used to be Wolfgang, and the family asks him if he is willing to change it to Wilfred, and he agreed, over Alita's silent objection. We get that scene in order to set up another scene where Wilf goes to talk to their mother in hopes of finding a clue to Alita's whereabouts. Both are estranged from the mother, who is a bit of a stuck-up bitch, since neither showed up to the father's funeral. The mother tells Wilf that Alita ran into her a month earlier and told her where she was via a riddle that neither Wilf or his mother could solve. And we all know where that is going. Flynn gets out of the sim and tells Burton about Pickett. Her brother wants to kill Pickett, but Flynn makes him promise not to, until she can come up with an alternative plan. When she goes back in the sim, she is in the car with Wilf. They drive around in hopes Flynn notices something familiar from that first sim with the woman. The woman from that night has disappeared, probably dead either from Alita herself or from R.I., who dislike security breaches in the extreme. Wilf links himself with Flynn and they split up to walk around, hoping to cover more ground. Unfortunately, a robot cop begins following Flynn, and it is then that Wilf learns from Ash that Flynn's peripheral is not strictly speaking legal, something Ash and Lev failed to mention before he took her out. He meets up with Flynn, and to distract the cop, he gets rather mushy with her before kissing the peripheral. The cop allows her to end the sim, and Wilf walks off with the peripheral without trouble. Back in Tennessee, Burton has decided on a plan B without Flynn and goes to talk to Pickett. He offers Pickett a carrot or a stick vis-a-vis the bounty on him and his sister. The carrot? Burton pays Pickett $200,000 a week with the promise that they are not up to anything that would conflict with Pickett's businesses. The stick? If anything happens to him or his sister, every one of Burton's buddies will hunt down and kill Pickett. Deputy Dumbass happens to come by the bar just in time to see the two men shake on the carrot deal, and you can tell by his facial expression that he thinks Burton is up to no good. Back in the future, Thug is getting a politely venomous reaming from bald-headed boss lady for taking so long killing one girl. He is also having trouble finding who was funding Alita, but that it feels like one of the oligarch families. Boss Lady makes sure Thug knows that performance reviews from her are rather harsh where failure is concerned, and then walks off, leaving him hyperventilating. She then brings in a woman who was friends with Alita at RI. She invites her to her gazebo in her garden full of beehives. They chat, and the woman realizes that she made a mistake telling Alita about the past timelines and the work RI did with them. Boss Lady then kills her with the bees, having laced her tea with something that makes her sweat smell like hornets to the bees. Then we are back with Billy Ann, and she and Jasper are arriving home. She realizes he is not getting out of the truck, and he tells her he has to make a delivery for his uncle, telling her it was from the 3D print shop. She wants to make sure it is not drugs, since Pickett knows how she hates them around the house, and find it is a sack of cash. She warns Jasper not to take any of it, and he leaves. He delivers the bag to Pickett at a drug lab. The two men muse about where Burton is getting the money to buy off Pickett. Pickett offers his nephew one of the stacks of cash that Jasper is eyeing, and he takes it. Only then does Pickett tell him the cost, finding out what Burton and Flynn are into and where the money is coming from. Back on the homestead, Flynn is asking Burton about his haptics and what it feels like to be jacked into someone else's head. He warns her it can feel just like love. When she goes back into the sim, as expected, she rather quickly figures out what the riddle Alita left with Wilf's mother means, and they go to the address. They find the place Flynn left the woman she kidnapped in the first sim, and it has been trashed. She notices that there is a clock just like the one she has at home. Wilf turns the clock to the time Flynn's broken clock is stuck at, and a hidden room is revealed. And we all know what is going to happen before it does. Alita is gone, and the doctors who operated on Flynn's peripheral in the second go-around in the sim turned out to be peripherals that have been abandoned. As they are leaving, Thug and a robot burst through the door using Thug's sonic pistol. The robot subdues Wilf while Thug repeatedly shoots Flynn in non-lethal areas, telling her that the damage still translates back to her real body. Wilf breaks out of the robot's hold, sticking a scalpel in its head. Distraction is enough for Flynn to hit Thug and knock him over, taking his gun away from him. He starts babbling company secrets, telling Flynn that she is being hunted because Alita stole something important from RI. Just as he's about to tell her what exactly it was she stole, the robot reanimates and chops Thug's head off. Boss Lady has been monitoring things from it and uses it to tidy up loose ends. And that's where they end the episode. First, I will say that this episode was better than the last episode. Not more lively, but the dialogue and interpersonal stories were at least more interesting. More world building helped, as we know a little bit more about the bad guys and why they are after Alita and Flynn. Not much more, but some. There were more problems, however. The pool scene with Pickett and his wife, besides the completely unnecessary shot of an ass well into its 60s, and I mean the body part, not the guy, just continued the degradation of what promised to be an interesting villain in the first episode. We also have Flynn showing she has the brains of a pickled minnow, as she goes around spouting information she should damn well know ought to be kept in-house. Their continued safety now depends on her best friend's ability to keep her mouth shut on those secrets around not only her husband, but her husband's uncle and aunt, the town drug lord and his, puppet master? At least that's what it seemed from that pool scene. Anyway, moving on with the problems. Deputy Dumbass continues to annoy as he bumbles through scenes with a completely witless look about him. He cannot possibly be as stupid as the actor playing him makes his face look when he is on camera. I would mention Thug and the complete emasculation of him as a character, but that was taken care of between Flynn and Boss Lady killing him. But Boss Lady, who we saw briefly in the first episode and briefly in the second episode, was almost as cartoonishly over-the-top villainy in this episode as Pickett was in last episode, only with more dignity than the writers allowed Pickett. Overall, I think this episode is a wash. It continues the good elements from the first two episodes, for the most part, while not completely degrading Flynn to the point that she is annoying or girl-bossy yet. Lev and Connor continue to be good characters in this episode, and Ash actually improved a little. The accent somehow not as thickly incomprehensible in this episode, and the storyline is still a fascinating one. Though not the one from the book, as I recently found out accidentally when Googling something for the last review. For some reason, the story in this show is radically different from what I saw described from the book, and that gives me a reason to pause. Amazon does not have a good track record when it comes to adapting books that they decide to remake as they see fit. Our favorite Hell on Earth and The Wheel of Time being but two examples. Hopefully the writers are not complete hacks and this show will continue to meander along somewhere between pretty good and could have been better. That's all I have for this video. If you like what I do here, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and comment down below to help out with the YouTube algorithm. Sorry this is a few days late, but unforeseen circumstances intervened in my production process. Not sure what the next video will be, but I suspect it will be about the Black Panther clips that dropped the other day, and what they mean for Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Until then. Tschüss.